Hello, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Tonight on America Decides, there's the politics and there's the law. Maryland Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen arrived back in the Washington, D.C. area late today after speaking about his meeting with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The Maryland man mistakenly deported to El Salvador. The senator argued that his case is representative of a larger clash over the law, due process, and the rule of law in our country. The White House and President Trump criticized the senator's trip, eagerly leaning into the politics of all this. And that was vividly displayed on a social media post from the White House, which included an image of the New York Times headline, scribbled over it in red, the White House did, changing it to, quote, "Senator meets with deported MS-13 illegal alien in El Salvador who's never coming back." That's the politics, that's the law. Peace train, but to where? During his campaign, then candidate and President Trump said he could end Russia's war with Ukraine in 24 hours. But after 3 months in office, the president and his administration now threatening to walk away from what appear to be stalled negotiations.
If for some reason one of the two parties makes it very difficult, we're just going to say you're foolish, you're fools, you're horrible people, and we're going to just take a pass. But hopefully we won't have to do that.
COVID grievance website. The White House turns a government website once used to share COVID advice into a promotional page for the quote-unquote lab leak theory. A closer look at that site also takes aim at Dr. Anthony Fauci. I want to start tonight with Jake Rosen, who's here with me at the desk, Olivia Rinaldi at the White House. Jake, catch us up on the latest in regards to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, what Senator Van Hollen said about the meeting, and what we have learned about things said about Kilmar Abrego Garcia by the government.
Well, we saw Senator Van Hollen just a couple of minutes ago describe his interaction. He says that the Salvadoran government, after he attempted to go to CECOT, that infamous prison, that he got pulled over on the side of the road, told he couldn't go there. That comes a couple days after a Republican congressman went there and was allowed in. So we see the Trump administration, or at least the Bukele administration in El Salvador, picking and choosing who they allow access for photo op purposes. Then he was turned around, and then as he was about to leave, he says, to come back to the United States without having accomplished this meeting with Mr. Abrego Garcia, he got a phone call from someone who said that they had found a way to do it. They were going to bring him to potentially even the poolside of the hotel to kind of stage this photo op meeting. We see Mr. Abrego Garcia in these pictures in a Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl hat. We see him wearing not obviously a jail outfit. They clearly wanted to clean him up for this. And we heard a couple of things in addition to just Senator Van Hollen talking about what the message he wanted to convey and all the people that were fighting for him. Obviously, Senator Van Hollen is at the tip of the spear in terms of this public really perception and protest going on right now. But also he said that Mr. Abrego Garcia had been moved from CECOT, that prison, 9 days ago now, to a different Salvadoran prison, which goes against what the Department of Justice has been saying daily to a judge up the road here in Greenbelt, Maryland, in which she's required daily status updates in this case. And in the first status update, they said he was alive in this prison and was there. Every update that has followed has said that he is still in this prison, or at least they've cited that initial filing to say that nothing's changed.
So this is in conflict with what the senator just said about his actual place of detention.
Yes, and I think it shows not only just how kind of unserious the Trump administration has been in kind of engaging with this, but also how they've fully pivoted now from substantive moves to bring him home to now, like you pointed out in your open, correcting the public perception of who this man is through a number of series of posts online.
Olivia, I want to talk to you for a little bit about a kind of interesting divergence in assessments from those speaking on behalf of the White House and the administration about Ukraine-Russia peace talks. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, sounded very downcast, saying we may just walk away from this. The president sounded a little bit more optimistic. Vice President Vance in Rome also sounded somewhat optimistic. Summarize what we heard today.
Yeah, it was quite a bit of news this morning from Secretary Rubio, who was meeting with the French President Emmanuel Macron, where they were talking about ending this 3-year-long war in Ukraine. And he kind of surprised a lot of people by saying that the U.S. is willing to walk away if they cannot make a substantive move towards a potential ceasefire between the two if they can't come to an agreement. That was a little bit unnerving to the Ukrainians who have been watching these negotiations ongoing. Rubio went on to say if it's not possible to end the war in Ukraine, we need to move on, and saying it's not the U.S.'s war. He also said that in a matter of days, whether or not this is doable, they will figure it out. Later, though, we heard from Vice President Vance, who was meeting with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, where he said he sounded quite optimistic that they'd be able to reach a deal in the coming weeks. And he went on to say that there is something interesting that has been happening with Ukraine. Now, that perked up a lot of ears. He said something interesting over the last 24 hours. Curious what that could be. We asked, have not heard back on that specifically. But then Trump in the Oval Office was also asked about this, what he would need to see for these negotiations, whether or not he's being played by Putin. Our Wei Zhang asked him what he would need to see to get to an end to this war on both sides, and Trump said he would need to see more of an effort, and if there is a limit on the number of days that he's willing to put on these negotiations, meaning that if by next week they don't have something concrete, is it time to walk away? And Trump said there's no specific number of days, but quickly, we want to get this done. He said, I think we have a good chance of solving the problem. So what was notable today, though, was all of a sudden we got this sort of timeline pressure put on all sides, where it's now a matter of days or weeks that they need to come to resolve this war. Now, the president will say, look, people are dying every day. Of course, I've wanted to solve this, but it's been 87 days for a war that he said he could have solved on day one, and Major, it's proving a little bit more difficult than that to get an end to this nearly 3-year-long war.
Olivia, thank you very much. Jake, back to you. There is this back and forth, including the White House, as we've notified our viewers on this show repeatedly, loves the politics of it, wants to lean in on it, and wants to keep saying things about Kilmar Abrego Garcia in public that don't show up in legal documents when the case is actually adjudicated.
Yeah, and none of these perceptions and past issues of Mr. Abrego Garcia are applicable in the case that we're talking about. As we saw the Fourth Circuit say yesterday, the allegations that he is a terrorist, perhaps he is, perhaps he is not, is what this judge said, because there's been no opportunity to prove that, because he is not in the United States to have any of these claims heard against him. Today, I would just point out that the Department of Homeland Security sent some footage, or a screenshot of a body cam footage from he got pulled over in 2022. He was with a number of men who were undocumented.
This was in Tennessee. In
Tennessee, nobody had bags with them. The state trooper who pulled them over said that he thought potentially it could be a case of human trafficking. There were no criminal charges ever filed. And again, Mr. Abrego Garcia's wife said in a statement to CBS News that we obtained that says that even if he were charged with this, he couldn't speak for himself on any of these cases because he is not here to defend himself.
Jake Rosen and Olivia Rinaldi at the White House, thank you very much. I appreciate it.